Have you ever stopped to think about those unseen forces, the ones sort of quietly shaping our global economy?
The background machinery.
Exactly. We're talking about that critical infrastructure, often overlooked, that keeps businesses, ticking along smoothly.
Right.
And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of those essential but maybe kind of invisible industries,
Yeah.
the tax compliance software market.
Ah, yes, definitely essential and definitely growing.
So our mission for this deep dive, we want to cut through all the numbers, really reveal the surprising scale and the impact of this market.
Give you the quick take, essentially.
Yeah, a shortcut to understanding its vital role, especially now in the digital age. Because this isn't just about, filing forms.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's this rapidly expanding sector driven by, well, global digital transformation and that constant need for businesses to keep up with tax rules.
Which are always changing, it seems.
Exactly. So let's get into the big picture. What are the global numbers telling us?
Okay, so globally, it's fascinating, actually. The market was valued at, let's see, over $9.1 billion. That was back in 2021.
It's 9.1 billion.
Yeah. And by 2025, it's forecast to jump up to nearly $12.9 billion.
Oh, no, it's 13 billion.
Right. But here's the really standout figure. By 2033, it's expected to more than double again. We're talking a massive $25.5 billion.
Wow, $25 billion.
It is. That works out to a pretty robust compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of almost 9%, 8.946% to be precise.
So nearly 9% growth year on year. What does that really signify?
Well, it tells us a lot, doesn't it? It speaks volumes about how crucial these digital solutions and regulatory efficiency have become for businesses everywhere.
So it's more than just avoiding fine.
Oh, much more. It's really about optimizing, complex global operations, unlocking actual digital value.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. And when we look at that big picture, that impressive global growth, it isn't uniform across the board.
Right, different regions moving at different speeds.
Exactly. Each major region contributes its own unique piece to that expansion, driven by, distinct local factors.
Okay, so with that global view set, let's start digging into the regions. North America, you mentioned, it holds the lead. What's going on there?
Yeah, North America is the leader. It generated over $3.5 billion back in 2021.
3.5 billion.
And it's projected to nearly triple that, hitting over $9.5 billion by 2033, still maintaining a strong growth rate, about 8.5% CAGR.
And within North America?
Well, the United States is clearly the dominant force. It's expected to grow from about $2.9 billion to over $7.6 billion in that same period.
Huge.
It is. But Canada and Mexico aren't standing still either. They also show really robust expansion, each projected to grow, 2 to 3 times over.
So what drives that mature market?
It's really driven by large corporate needs, complex tax structures, and a pretty well-established digital infrastructure already in place.
Got it. That's a significant chunk of the global market right there. But Europe, you said, is also a major player.
Oh, definitely. Europe's presence is substantial and quite steady. You can't underestimate it.
Okay.
The European market was over $1.8 billion in 2021, and it's projected to reach nearly $4.9 billion by 2033. Still a solid CGR, around 8.45%.
And within Europe, any leaders?
Germany leads the continent there, set to grow from just over $380 million to more than $1 billion.
Wow, over $1 billion just in Germany.
Yeah. The UK and France are also major contributors, both on track to more than double their market size, reaching hundreds of millions each.
What's unique about the European market then?
I think what's interesting there is the complexity. The regulatory landscape can be very different from country to country,
Okay.
which constantly drives the need for sophisticated, often localized compliance solutions. Even the smaller economies, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, they're consistently expanding their use of this software.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, now for the really dynamic region you mentioned, Asia-Pacific. Highest CAGR globally. What's fueling that speed?
Yeah, Asia-Pacific's market is really, really picking up steam. It started around $2.4 billion in 2021.
Okay.
And it's projected to nearly triple, hitting almost $7.5 billion by 2033. That CAGR is impressive, nearly 10%, 9.844%.
Almost 10% growth. Who's leading the charge there?
Well, China is a huge driver, obviously, on track to reach almost $2.5 billion itself. And Japan also shows strong performance.
Hmm.
But India really stands out. It has an extraordinary growth rate, almost 11% CAGR.
11%.
I know. It's set to grow from around $265 million to over $920 million by 2033.
What's behind that incredible Indian growth?
It seems to be largely down to aggressive government digital tax initiatives, things like the widespread adoption of GST, the goods and services tax.
Forcing the issue digitally.
Pretty much. They're rapidly mandating and incentivizing businesses to adopt software for compliance. Singapore is another high flyer there, also on track to more than triple its market. Great growth across Southeast Asia, too.
Fascinating. Okay, moving south now, South America. Still seeing robust expansion there, too.
Yes, absolutely. South America's market was over $585 million in 2021,
Right.
and it's projected to nearly triple as well to almost $1.7 billion by 2033. Another strong CAGR there, over 9.2%.
And the key countries.
Brazil leads the region, poised to reach nearly $600 million by 2033. But countries like Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile, they're all showing very solid growth too, each more than doubling their market size over this period.
What are the drivers in South America?
It seems to be the region's increasing economic integration plus efforts to, standardize tax processes across different countries. That's pushing demand.
Okay. What about the Middle East? How's that market developing?
The Middle East market is certainly expanding, moving from about $448 million in 2021 to a projected $1.28 billion by 2033.
So good growth there, too.
Decent growth, yes. Saudi Arabia is the largest contributor, forecast to hit over $350 million. Turkey and the UAE are also key players.
Uh-huh.
The UAE actually shows particularly strong growth. It's set to more than triple its market size to over $170 million.
And a reason there. Similar drivers.
Kind of. It's linked to rapid economic diversification efforts you see in the region. Plus, the introduction of, new tax frameworks like VAT in some countries,
Yeah.
that's accelerating the need for compliance software.
Right. New rules mean new software needs. Okay, last region, Africa. What does the data show for this emerging market?
Africa's market, while smaller, is definitely growing. Recorded just over $274 million in 2021,
Okay.
and it's forecasted to reach nearly $783 million by 2033, so almost tripling as well.
Who are the main players within Africa?
South Africa leads the continent, growing from about $94 million to over $290 million by 2033. Nigeria is also significant, projected to hit over $125 million.
And this growth reflects.
It really reflects the continent's own digital transformation pushes and also the increasing sort of formalization of economies. Both drive demand for more efficient compliance tools.
So bringing it all together then, what's the core message from all this regional data?
Well, if you connect all those threads, it's clear this tax compliant software market isn't just expanding in a simple way. It's fundamentally woven into global economic modernization and into regulatory efficiency across every single region we looked at.
Right.
From the sheer scale you see in North America to that blistering pace in Asia Pacific and even Africa's clear emergence. This market is actively, unlocking digital value and streamlining complex processes on a truly global scale. It's really quite fundamental.
It really is. Which leads to a final thought, maybe for you listening. As this digital transformation keeps reshaping, well, pretty much every aspect of our lives, what other invisible industries, like this tax compliant software one, might be quietly revolutionizing how the global economy actually functions? Just beneath the surface of our everyday awareness.
Yeah, makes you wonder.
It really makes you think about all that hidden digital infrastructure, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The stuff that powers so much of what we just take for granted. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we really try to cut through the noise, get to the important stuff from the sources you share. Today, we're diving into something fascinating, maybe a bit complex, the world of tax compliance software. And, this isn't just about making things had easier anymore. For companies dealing with, well, increasingly tangled global tax rules, it's really become a strategic must-have. And just so you know, all our insights for this one, they come straight from cognitive market research, really authoritative stuff. Okay, let's unpack this. We'll look at what's driving it, the hurdles, and what's coming next for this pretty critical financial tech.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that tax compliance, it might sound a bit dry, back office stuff, but it's actually fundamental. It touches pretty much every single business operating today. It doesn't matter the size or what they do. So our goal here, our mission for this deep dive is really to give you a clear, kind of concise picture of this market, what makes it tick, its dynamics, and why it's not just software, but actually a strategic asset. It affects agility, risk, even how competitive a company can be.
Okay, so let's kick things off. What's really fueling the growth in this market? What are the biggest sort of forces pushing companies towards these tax solutions right now?
Well, the first big one, and cognitive market research really highlights this, is just the sheer complexity of global tax regulations. It's unavoidable. I mean, think about it. Businesses aren't stuck in one place anymore, are they? They're operating across loads of different jurisdictions. Each one has its own unique tax rules, different deadlines, different ways you need to file things. Trying to track all that manually, it's not just inefficient, it's basically asking for trouble. Non-compliance, big penalties, even damage to your reputation. So this software, it tackles that head on. It gives you real-time updates on rules, features for specific locations, automates reports. It just helps companies stay compliant. It really changes tax from being this reactive, almost fear-based thing into something proactive and manageable.
Wow, that complexity alone sounds like a major headache. And it makes me wonder, is this push for new tax software happening on its own, or is it tied into, the bigger digital transformation stuff companies are doing anyway? Is it just part of that wave? Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, it's absolutely part of that bigger wave, definitely. The second key driver is that whole digital transformation movement, and crucially, how vital cloud adoption has become. As companies modernize their finance operations overall, cloud-based tax platforms, well, they're not really optional anymore. They're becoming standard. These platforms offer, centralized data access, updates happen seamlessly without big IT projects. People can collaborate across borders easily, no need for expensive servers on site. And what's really game-changing is how smoothly they integrate with systems companies already have. ERPs, invoicing tools, accounting software. It's not just about putting data in one place. It's about making it accessible and streamlining how people work. The efficiency gains are huge compared to, say, 10 years ago.
Right. And beyond just getting modern, I guess there's always that human factor in traditional tax work, the
Yeah.
potential for mistakes.
Yeah.
Software must help there too.
Exactly. That leads right into the third driver, this growing demand for automation and, just as importantly, accuracy. Look, manual tax processes, they take up a massive amount of time. They pull skilled finance people away from more strategic analysis. And let's be honest, they're prone to human error. It just happens. Tax software comes in and automates those complex calculations. It keeps tax rates constantly updated, which is a job in itself, and it creates these reliable audit trails for every single transaction. So yeah, it reduces risk, but it also fundamentally shifts what the finance team does. They move away from tedious data entry and checking towards, proactive analysis and strategy using data they can actually trust.
That sounds incredibly useful. Better productivity, less stress, maybe.
Mm.
But like any big tech change, it's probably not all smooth sailing, right?
Mm.
What are some of the big roadblocks, the things slowing down wider adoption?
That's a really important angle. Yeah, there are definitely hurdles. The first major restraint, and cognitive market research points this out clearly, is the high initial cost of getting started, especially for small and medium-sized businesses, SMEs. That upfront cost software licenses, training people, maybe customizing it, getting it to talk to their existing systems, that can be a really big barrier. And even with these cloud-based SaaS options, the software as a service model, often the really advanced features like handling multiple countries or getting those AI-driven insights, they're locked behind expensive premium tiers. That can still be a stretch for some budgets.
Okay, cost is one thing. But given how sensitive financial data is, I imagine security must be a huge concern. That might make companies hesitate, surely.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive concern, and quite rightly so. That's the second key restraint. Data security and privacy worries. These tax platforms, they handle incredibly sensitive information, personal data, corporate financial details. If there's a breach, it's not just about losing money. It could mean serious violations of data protection laws like GDPR over in Europe or CCPA in California. We're talking heavy fines, serious reputational damage. So businesses are understandably very cautious about cloud solutions. They need providers to really prove they have robust encryption, strict access controls, and that they fully comply with data residency rules where the data has to physically be stored. It really boils down to trust.
Right, trust is key there. And then there's the whole issue of, Well, older systems, lots of companies still have legacy infrastructure, don't they? How does that complicate things?
Yeah, that leads us to the third critical restraint, the challenge of integrating with those legacy systems. Many established organizations, particularly bigger ones, are often still running on older financial infrastructure, stuff that just wasn't built for modern APIs or data formats. So trying to connect these new agile tax tools with those older systems can be really expensive, technically very difficult, and honestly prone to errors and data mismatches. If the integration isn't smooth, you get delays, data discrepancies, you need a ton of ongoing IT help. And ultimately, it stops companies from getting the full benefit they expected from the software. It kind of creates this innovation bottleneck.
Okay, so clear challenges exist. Cost, security, integration. But tech keeps moving, doesn't it? So looking ahead, what's exciting? What's on the horizon for this market? What are the promising trends?
Well, one really standout trend, again highlighted by cognitive market research, is the integration of AI and machine learning for, smarter tax insights. These technologies are getting really powerful. They're being used for things like predictive analytics, anticipating tax issues, intelligent categorization of transactions, spotting potential fraud, even giving compliance advice in real time. And what's really cool is that the machine learning models, they actually get better over time, more accurate, more efficient. This really empowers finance teams. It's not just automating tasks anymore. It's a real shift. Finance moves from putting out fires to proactively managing risk using predictive intelligence. Imagine knowing your tax exposure before it hits rather than just reporting it afterwards.
That is fascinating, like a crystal ball for tax almost. And we've seen this huge move to subscription software everywhere else. Is that happening here too? What are the upsides beyond just how you pay?
Absolutely. That's another key trend, the continued rise of SaaS-based, so software as a service, tax solutions. Companies really like the flexibility and how easily these cloud platforms can scale up or down. And the practical benefits are significant beyond just the subscription model. Updates happen automatically, no user hassle. You can access it from anywhere you have internet. That's perfect for today's distributed teams, right? People working remotely. It basically makes sophisticated tools available to more businesses, even smaller ones, without needing that huge upfront investment or a big IT team.
Makes sense. And you mentioned governments earlier. They seem to be pushing for more digital stuff like e-invoicing. How's that impacting the software market?
Yeah, that's a really major force reshaping things right now. We're seeing this strong push towards tight integration with e-invoicing systems and these real-time government reporting platforms. Governments all over the world, think India's GST system or the SAFT requirements in the EU, they increasingly want tax data digitally, directly from company systems, more transparency. So software vendors, they're actively building solutions that can talk directly to these government portals. This lets businesses send their tax data in real time. It's not just faster, it drastically cuts down audit risks because the data exchange is immediate and accurate. It's really changing tax compliance from something you maybe do once a year to more of a continuous ongoing process.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you listening? Well, this deep dive, I think it really shows the tax compliance software market is moving incredibly fast. You've got the drivers, that ever-growing regulatory complexity, the big wave of digital innovation, and just the basic need for accuracy and automation you can't get manually anymore. Sure, there are challenges we talked about, cost, security worries, integrating with old systems. Those are real. But the future, it's clearly being shaped by exciting things like AI, the dominance of SaaS, and this global push for e-invoicing and real-time reporting. The takeaway from cognitive market research seems pretty clear. This software, it's not just nice to have anymore. It's truly a strategic, foundational piece for businesses of all sizes. It impacts risk, agility, the whole 9 yards.
And this raises an important question for the future, perhaps. As things like AI and real-time reporting become the norm, businesses might need to think differently, not just about how they comply, but maybe how often they actually look at and interact with their tax data. Could we see a shift? Moving away from just an annual check-in to something more like continuous proactive oversight, that could really change how finance teams operate and the kind of value they add.
A really interesting thought to end on, continuous oversight instead of looking back. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into tax compliance software. Definitely a lot to think about there. We hope you'll keep exploring these kinds of topics. Until next time on The Deep Dive.